So very exciting. I actually might be heading off to a meeting. I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to be there for the tournament here in Radoteen at the Alice Robeski, but there's a lot going on. I mentioned earlier that Pete Dubinsky is in net for Victoria. There's a lot of players. And I'll tell you, one team that's competing, and they're looking for, they won, Purple Rain was the Glasgow Clydesiders, who won championship a few years ago, and they were looking for a backup goalie, hoping to get one of the Czech guys. Backup goalie is a very important position in a tournament like this where you have a lot of games back to back, and you need sometimes in the NLL someone to step in as well. So let's go to who are backup goalies in the NLL. Does Las Vegas need to start scouring the rosters and trying to bring somebody in? We've got a lot to talk about.
We are going to, I guess, continue and kind of expand into our conversation about the backup goaltenders and who shined the brightest during this past NLL regular season. We might even get an opportunity to see some of them during the playoffs. Hopefully not for those teams that want to have a great starting performance, but there definitely were a ton of those names. So, kind of as we were alluding to, Stamper, who's the guy that stands out the most to you?
Well, I would say this season, Riley Hutchcraft. I don't think there's any question. I mean, Drew Hutchison's a candidate with Halifax, obviously, and he's going to be starting this weekend, as we talked about. But Riley Hutchcraft was the starter in Rochester, played very well for the Nighthawks. Had a couple of off games, but I thought he was very good. Rylan Hartley comes back, and Hartley had been out because of injury. They said all along Hartley is the guy when he's ready, and they stuck to that. And Hutchcraft, willingly went into the backup role, prepared to do what he needed to do for the team. But you look at the stats for the season, and Hutchcraft with a 790 save percentage, Hartley with a 774, and that is skewed a bit by Hartley. Started slowly when he came back. He had some struggles in his first games back, and then he had the one awful game in Las Vegas, right, where he gave up probably more goals than he made saves. Yeah, I think in that game. So that's going to skew the numbers. And he didn't have a full season to work back up. So it's a toss-up. It's not like Hutchcraft has clearly been better, but I think he's done well enough that teams got to look at him and say, hey, if we need a goalie, we can bring him in. Now, is there a team looking for a starting goalie? Maybe, but you certainly have to look at him. If not as your starter, at least as somebody who can come in and compete for the role.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I have the numbers up right here, and Hutchcraft had a better goals against average. His goals against average this season was 11.24, better than Warren Hill, better than Christopher Origlieri, better than Brett Dobson, better than Nick DeMude, better than Landon Kells. Those guys, all starters. And to step into a role where he wasn't the go-to number one, filling into a spot with a lot of uncertainty. And I think one thing that we have to always note with backup goaltenders is, they will always try their best to be prepared, but when you're not getting regular reps of game time, stepping in and, having that uncertainty can be a real challenge. So when you can do so at such a high level, I think it needs to be applauded. And I think we got to the point where Riley Hutchcraft was getting that recognition after some, I guess, moments during the very earliest parts of the season where we were like, oh, well, he's good, but he's not number one. I think he definitely showed that he is.
Yeah. So Hutchcraft, we're pretty clear, is the guy who's shown that he's ready to be a starter, has experience, he's a more veteran player. What about if you're looking for a young goalie that you think can come in, that is somebody's backup that, may or may not become available? Who knows? Is there somebody you're going to target to try and go get? I can think of, three guys for sure. I mean, top of my head, right?
For me, I think that Deacon Knott is my go-to number one for two reasons. Not just because of what I know he can do on the floor. He's shown it in junior. He started to show it, and we spoke about it in the Georgia game. He was doing so well for 3 quarters. The game kind of got away from him in that one. But to do that as a backup, a young guy, very little playing time, very, very impressive. But it's also the character that he brings in the locker room, which is what coaches are always looking for. A stand-up guy, studies the game, always is prepared, always is ready for the moment, a great teammate. So I think Deacon's the whole package, and I think that was kind of the idea when Philly drafted him initially.
Yeah, and it's interesting, because they had Zach Higgins, then you bring in Nick Damoud, and Higgins has been a stellar goaltender, standout. Damu kind of established himself, but towards the end of the season, when they had some games they had to win, they were starting to not. It's interesting to see what the situation is in Philadelphia. Is Deacon not the starter next year? Is Nick Damu? I mean, you've got it's a pretty good problem to have.
Right.
What about Deacon Knott's backup at the Minto Cup with the Burlington Blaze?
That was
Thomas Kajzik.
Yes, he stepped in very well this season, which was very appreciated by Frank Chiliano when he was waiting to be a dad. So he was definitely phenomenal, and he's younger than Deacon, right? He's like 20.
Maybe by a little bit. He's sorry, we got somebody. Hey, we're just recording a show. Sorry, I'll just be a bit, but you can keep doing stuff. Okay. Sorry, we're it's the day before the Reveski, so everything's getting set up. We're going to show you a view. Maybe I'll take a little video of the booth that we can add in, and it's a great setup here. But there's lots going on. The broadcast guys are just setting up for the getting the cameras and everything all set for tomorrow. I thought they were done for today, so I thought I wasn't going to be in the way, but I was a little bit. But Thomas Kajzik stepped in, and the thing again, overcoming adversity, he gave up 4 goals in 4 or 5 minutes. I don't think it was his first 4 shots, but it was pretty quick in that game where he first went in and was replacing Chiliano while he's off on paternity watch, and Keegan Bell, because they didn't have another goalie on the roster. Keegan Bell was his backup. They're not going to Keegan Bell unless it's really right. I mean, you guys never played net. The shots he took on warm up were his first shots. So kudos to him for jumping in, but you're not doing that, right? So it was ride or die with Thomas Kajzik.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And looking at that game, actually stepped up in the fourth quarter, only allowed 1 goal to Sam Firth, and then didn't allow a goal over the last couple of minutes there as Saskatchewan had pulled away. And also impressive is that he improved from that game right on to the next one. And so in that short adjustment period, was very impressive. So I think he's a very valuable one. And are we now saying that fans of the NLL should be watching to see what other goaltenders Burlington has in store in the future?
Well, I mean, maybe they had, because Cole Gervais was there, and then he was actually traded to Peterborough for Deacon Knott, right? And Kajzik was with the PN Knights Junior B, their affiliates, the Toronto Beaches, but he they had a bunch of Nepean players went to Burlington as part of that run. And then I'm trying to think who they had. Burlington had Callum Lever, sorry, Callum, and your dad, who I talk to fairly regularly. Lever Prera was there, and he was drafted, I believe, last year. He's another good goalie. So they've had a run of goalies. I wouldn't say they're quite at the Orangeville level yet, but they're putting out some good goalies. So maybe they're a place to watch.
Yeah. So are there any other backups that you are looking at? You said you had a few in mind where you're like, okay, this guy needs attention.
The third guy that comes to mind is, again, where a player came in this case, Christian Del Bianco came in, and you've got Aiden Walsh, who played pretty well. His play had tailed off a bit before Del Bianco came in, but I mean, Vancouver's not in the playoffs without Christian Del Bianco. They're also not there if Walsh doesn't play as well as he did in the beginning of the season. He's a guy that could have a shot. And the thing there is you've got Walsh, and they still got Connor O'Toole. He's protected practice player right now. So teams have been signing guys to protected practice player contracts because that way they can keep them. You get to do that, protect one practice player, and he becomes a restricted free agent at the end of the season. So that's why you see that happening. All the other practice players are unrestricted. So Vancouver signed him because they had him on the active roster with 3 goalies for a bit. He's obviously a great prospect in the league. So there's a couple of guys. Does Vancouver keep Walsh and O'Toole? I mean, do they both want to stay there? I don't know. Greg has something to say, I think, because that's why he pops up.
Yeah, the most important part of all that was Deacon Knott is the Lax Night champion. So for all the Blue Squatch guys, Deacon Knott won Lax Night with the Rochester Bats. So that's is probably my favorite part. Is we get to get highlights of that. Like we got Cam Pylon, who's the Pilon, sorry, yeah. I should have asked him. Okay. I actually got to meet the kid once. He seems like a great guy. And I tell you what, he showed up, took over that tournament, completely won it. I mean, it was a different level. You could tell he was just that much better than everybody else that was there. It was crazy. But no,
he played for Era the year before. He played with an Irish club at Laxide the year before.
I love getting to learn all these guys' names and see him. So then when you see him come in, I'm like, wait, I know that guy. We filmed him. So yeah, no, that is huge. Kaisick, though, I think to me was just so impressive. Walsh, like you said, this really could have been like the year of the backup for somebody like me coming in and just getting to watch it. And then Holochuk, the way he played. Now I'm watching the Toronto game, going, boy, you're bringing Rosie in. What's the age difference? I got to figure this out. I mean, yeah, there was a lot to it this year, and that the backup goalie thing really blew my mind.
Yeah.
And what is the difference? How Nick Rose is what, 37, I believe?
Yeah, I think that's
right. I'm pulling up. Oh, my internet's slowing down. I'm trying to pull up Troy Holochuk. He is 25, so there's an age gap, obviously. Yeah. Nick Rose,
Rose 37.
Yeah. So I mean, 12 years. That's substantial.
Little bit of an age difference.
I don't. Yeah. Beyond that, I don't know. I mean, you've got some. I think that Angus Goodleaf is a good backup goalie, but I don't think teams are looking at him and saying, "Hey, maybe we can build our team around him." I mean, he's an older goalie now as well, right? I don't think you're going to be building around him. But are there other guys? I feel like that might be about it. I mean, you've got Andrew Kidd, Cam McLeod, young goalies that have shown some stuff, but I don't think any of them have done what our trio of Knott, Kaisick, and Walsh have done to set themselves up for potential suitors.
Right. Although I would say that right behind them would be Hutchison in Halifax, just because he did struggle in some games, but he also was excellent often when Warren was not. Right. So definitely deserves some credit. And glad you mentioned Andrew Kidd, and I know that Greg is excited whenever Dougie's not hitting it, which obviously, I mean, Doug is phenomenal and he's always going to be great, but Andrew is a good young goaltender to keep your eyes on as well.
So my last question, I swear, on this one is, you're the Vegas coach. Who are you starting for your Vegas goalie if you have a game tomorrow?
Tomorrow? A Wednesday? Who plays well on Wednesday? I think I would start Justin Getty right now.
Yeah, I would say the same, but I would also, and we talked about it, I think, last week on the program, I think that it's very evident that Vegas is at a place where they need to find another alternative.
And it's not coming in the draft this year, I don't think. Right. They have a high pick, but there's nobody. I don't see any goalies that are ready to command. Like, there's no Brett Dobson who's ready to come and play and be your starter. And even Dobson, they weren't sure was going to be right away, So I guess maybe a Dylan Ward would be the way to say it. But even he started behind Ty Belanger, right? Or not? Ty Belanger. So,
I think that'll be something we'll need to monitor over the off season. But I think that at this point, you need to try something else, because that has been the what's the word I'm saying? It has been the issue for them, and
the glaring issue.
It was crazy. Yeah. Well, let me say something quick, Sam. Interesting when we talk about Kells. He and I actually feel terrible for him. That when the NLL put out their list of goaltenders, they listed all 13 starters except for Kells, or all 14 except for Kells. Now Kells was the worst on goals against average, but if you're putting 13 nominees for an award and there's one winner, you got to put the other one. I mean, that's not fair to do to him.
And it's interesting. Like, I'm looking at the save percentages, which we've talked about this. I look at save percentages much more important, and the goal saved above average is an interesting stat. But I mean, Kells wound up with a 736 save percentage, but which there is a drop off. I mean, but there's a group like Brett Dobson 763, Warren Hill 764, Chris Riglieri 765. Yep. Those are all starters who are talked about as, at times, as some of the top goalies in the league. So it's first of all, it's not a mountain for him to climb. There's a hill for Kels to climb to get back into that group because he hasn't performed the way he or anybody else would have expected or hoped. But yeah, I mean, the thing to me when you talk about Landon Kels and Justin Getty and Vegas comes up, that's kind of what propelled is there a backup somewhere that you want to sign, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's part of it. That, as we're talking about this, Las Vegas is the obvious team that you're thinking they could use a starting goalie. Did they try to get Riley Hutchcraft? Did they try to get not Isaac Walsh? I don't know if we've talked about this before. Like, if you get one of those guys, is it a big step up? Is Deacon Knott's been great. I know you're a big fan. I'm a big fan. Is he ready to step in and be a starter week to week and be better than Landon Kels or Justin Getty right now?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
is that yes, he is, or yes?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think that he is, and I think that not with the record that they had. I mean, it's unavoidable. It will forever be in the history books that Las Vegas had 4 wins this year, which is worse than their first 2 seasons. And so
their goal differential is way worse. The goals they gave up. I'm actually going to be writing about that, but it's not good. Some of the numbers.
What do they say? If you keep repeating the same thing and getting the same results, that's insanity. And
expecting different results.
Yeah, and in no way is Sean Williams insane in any way, shape, or form. And he wants his team to win. He wants his guys to win. And look, he showed it, and I give him a lot of credit. He made a lot of moves this season. Mid-season, there was obviously some changes with Panther City folding, so he wasn't afraid to make those moves, and I think that this season that'll be the same. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm just watching. There's practice going on. The German Shepherds to my right and Wroclaw Lacrosse to my left. I have to get one more plug in here for the Alice Robetsky Memorial, which starts tomorrow. The Wroclaw is a team from Prague, but just across the river from the rink here in Radotin. German Shepherds, a lot of German national team guys. They were a top 8 team last year. They were actually a goal away from the Nova Scotia Privateers the year before last, when Nova Scotia won their first of 2 straight titles. So it's such a fun tournament. We've got a guy wearing a Seoul shirt. There's a team from Seoul here, which is, I believe, the first Asian team to take part in the Alice Robetsky. I was talking about that with some of their players, and they were saying, I think we're the first Asian team. And I was like, Hong Kong comes, but that's the E-Box. For me, they kind of blend, right? Because we're here. Anyway, I'm way off tangent, but it's so much fun. Like, we got teams from Seoul, teams that are represented here, nations. There's Finland, Austria, Sweden, Norway is not back this year. They didn't quite make it back. Bunch from the Czech Republic, 7 teams or 5 Canadian teams, a bunch of First Nation teams, base teams. The Res Dogs, who had a great performance last year, Cody Laforme, almost getting them to overtime with the Green Gales from Clarington, who are a championship contender, when he scored 5 goals in one game, 4 in the last 3 minutes of that game. And it was late in the tournament. He was taking a few steps off the bench, get the ball, and ripping. He was a great shooter. And so much. It's exciting. It's a lot of fun, and we're all getting pretty fired up about it over here.
Amazing. Well, yeah, I think that is going to do it for the backup goaltenders section. Although I hope it got you guys excited for the future and the potential of who could be stepping into some big shoes as the seasons roll on. So, Stamper, what do we have?
Predictions.